Welcome to the only show that brings you happenings in the world of diplomacy and international relations, diplomatic affairs. My name is Harriet Nati. The show comes off every Saturday on the platforms of Pan-African Television. We are on Saturdays from 4:20 to 5:20. You can also catch up with us on our Facebook and YouTube channels. Wherever you find yourself, you get to know what is happening when it comes to issues pertaining to diplomacy and international relations. Today is another day and we are coming to you with all the updates. It's been very interesting, the international community here and of course elsewhere. It's been a lot of interesting stories and we want to break it down with the help of the experts joining us on today's show so that you can be able to have proper understanding of what is happening in this area. I will share with you the launch of ECOWAS. ECOWAS celebrated 50 good years of its existence. The question many have been asking is, what are we celebrating? So I will be asking my experts who are joining me on today's show, really, what are we celebrating? Yeah, I believe there have been some highs and lows. So we'll talk about the highs and talk about the lows as well. So that's one of the areas that we will be looking at on today's show. And we also have Mr. Trump, the US president's decision to close down or shut down some missions, embassies and high commissions on the African continent. And we want to ask, why is this in the interest of the United States of America? And also, what does this say when it comes to relations or the foreign policy of the US towards Africa? My guests as well will help us delve into this. We'll also be talking about well, Gabon military leader. Gabon has a new president and we will be talking about that also on the show. And I believe this is the biggest topic of all the topics. This is the biggest topic, which is, of course, Ibrahim Traore's, the stories that are going round and round and round about the United States of America's comments, that came out, and it appears Africa has not taken this comment lightly, that the military junta is using resources of Burkina Faso for his security. And of course, we want to ask, people have been asking, what is the US's business in this? So I am curious to also learn all about this with the help of my experts. I'll take a break. When I come back, I will introduce to you my experts and we will start the conversation right here. Go straight to introduce or share with you my experts who have been very kind to join us in the studio for us to bring you all the updates on today's episode of Diplomatic Affairs. I will begin with Farouk Al-Wahab. He is an international diplomatic consultant. He is a regular guest on our show. He is very hard to find, so when we have the opportunity to find him, we ensure that we go through all the stories with him. And today he has been extremely kind to us. Mr. Al-Wahab, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure to have you. Also, joining him is one of our own, a renowned international relations and security analyst. He is in the person of Dr. Vladimir Entry Danso, and I believe the name sounds very, very, very familiar to you. And he's also joining us on today's show. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your presence.
Thanks for having
with
me
us
too.
here. Thank you, gentlemen. Now, today is going to be the podcast kind of show. I've pleaded with them to be very kind, to take it easy on me. So let's see how this goes, But I think we'll start on a very good note. Let's talk about ECOWAS. ECOWAS at 50. Let me give you a brief background, then we go into it. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, founded on May 28, 1975 to promote economic cooperation and development among member states in West Africa, has launched its Golden Jubilee celebration here in Accra. The celebration, themed Stronger Together for a Brighter Future, brought together heads of states across the regional bloc as well as some members members of the diplomatic corps. Minister for Foreign Affairs Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, in his welcome address, underscored the importance of building ECOWAS's future on the foundation of past successes and consolidating the gains in the areas of peace and security. So this is what we will be discussing. That's going to be our first story. Now, let me ask you, 50 years of commemorating the existence of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, is it worth it? And I'll begin with Doc.
Well, worth it, yes, worth it. Why? Because 50 years is something that has been noted to be celebrated. It's a jubilee, as you mentioned it. So if you have been poor for even 50 years, you need to celebrate your poverty. You need to celebrate how you've been able to survive this 50 years, you know. And as Ablakwa himself said, you know, it's a period of stock taking also. You know, reckon your successes and then take stock also of your failures and see where you go from here. So for me, the question is, yes, we need to celebrate because it's a point in time in our lives when at 50, if you don't have 50 CDs, then you know that you are in trouble. So you begin to start life again. So for me, celebrating it, yes. Best because it is time for stock taking. At that mature age, you should have been able to achieve something. And if you haven't achieved what you set yourself to achieve, then you restock, you know, recalibrate. And therefore, I think ECOWAS needed to celebrate so that we take stock of where we are, where we want to go, and how we get there.
Stock taking, a period of stock taking. Farouk, let me ask you, we do this every year. Every year we celebrate ECOWAS's existence. So is that to say that all the times that we have celebrated the existence of the regional bloc, we've not really done stock taking as we should? Or this is just the time for us looking at all the things that's happening in the world?
Well, let me say that the 50 years is a number. You understand me? Very nice number. Of course, it's a milestone that needs to be celebrated in all respects. But then I would have rather asked ECOWAS instead of maybe celebrating just the numbers. In my view, they should rather have taken the time when they congregated in Accra here and then bring back from 1975 all the charter declarations and then agreement and others that they laid out, being the foundation, the basis of the formation and establishment of the ECOWAS. Which one of them, how many of them have been signed? And I can tell you, those that have been signed, how practical had they been put into use? Virtually none. So if we have 50 years of independent ECOWAS establishment, and the basis from that 50 years, 1975, one of the core issue was free movement. But 50 years, do we have free movement on the ECOWAS region? The answer is very no. Do we still have our borders? The answer is very yes. Are we afraid of each other? The answer is very yes. Do we have security coordination, or we coordinate our security in the view of, let's say, the military, Côte d'Ivoire, etc., Togo? The answer is also very no. Why? The fear. Then we bring in or import colonial masters' influences on the bloc. And then we should also ask, if the 50 years is worth celebrating, how many countries started with the ECOWAS 50 years ago? Bring down the founding members. How many have exited? How many have gone to other regions of the Central African Republic to join? But those who exited, what was the issues? So if you have, excuse me to say that, you have 10 children, and then you keep celebrating your 10 children, but then every year you are losing a child. Every other year you are losing a child. Do you tell me that you are celebrating for your kids or your children being killed or dead? The answer is no. You can't celebrate. So you must rather sit down. For me, in my view, the celebration should rather be, okay, Doc said, stock taking. That is stock taking. But then I will say that they must evaluate, they must assess, and then let us all know that what the ECOWAS stands from the one of its inceptions or establishment till today, have they really lived up to expectations? And who Are they their own enemies or their own what? ECOWAS has serious cracks, serious issues. They keep losing members. Mauritania gone. Burkina now, you turn their table. When ECOWAS says that they've suspended, they don't suspend anything because there's no economic thing to suspend. They only suspend their tables. They turn the table upside down. If it were to be in the case of a death, they will put the red ribbon on it. What else do they do? Nothing. It doesn't affect any member country when you suspend them. So ECOWAS, fine. Yes, let's celebrate a number. But then the ideals, what goes into forming, even normal, there are a lot of, how do we call it, market women's association. They keep increasing in numbers, and they keep increasing when they go out there to support a friend, death or whatever. They keep increasing their how do we call it, the money they give at the funeral. The donation, they keep increasing. Is that what ECOWAS does? I've asked a question on this table. If we have an establishment of 50 years, a congregation of 15 member countries, now reduced to a certain number by 11 or whatever, let's say 15, 12. So if you have 12, and one ECOWAS member country was looking for $3 billion, and he has to carry his plate, or their plate, to the whole world for 3 entire years, before Ghana got 3 billion. So if 12 countries cannot bail out their colleague of $3 billion, is that what we are celebrating now? So I think, yes, let's celebrate the number of the 50 years of its establishment or foundation or formation. However, in my view, what we celebrate is not there.
Finally, before I move on to the next topic that we will be discussing, Doc, let me ask you this. Do you think the people still have hope in the regional bloc?
That's unfortunate. The answer is no, because one of the things you do in integration is to carry the people along. We call it the socio-economic partners in development. And if you check up the history of ECOWAS, there's nothing to show that the people for whom ECOWAS tolls, understand ECOWAS in any case.
They didn't even know.
They don't even know. They are completely detached. That's one of the basic negatives about integration in Africa. We said we were bringing the ECO. I did some research, and you had only one poster or a billboard, huge one, near Accra Mall, that is towards Tema. There was another one towards the Kasua Road at Kwashima, beyond Kwashima, there was another one there. There was another one at Achimota, exiting Accra. Then I traveled, you have one closer to Kumasi, 4 billboards I saw. It's like I didn't go beyond Kumasi, so I don't know. And ECHO was coming, virtually they were saying ECHO was coming that year.
It never happened.
And I'm saying, what is this? That even the awareness about ECOWAS was not there. I went to Makola and a few women, kind of. My own students at Legon, a few students I picked, as my base for the research. They had heard about it, but they just, they don't understand.
It can't happen.
Because the point is this, that if you don't take the socio-economic partners for whom the bell tolls along, like my friend Farouk said, the barriers to trade, the free movement of goods and persons and services, which people are involved? It is the people. Unfortunately, if you go to any of the West African countries and tell me where there is an ECOWAS office, where you can do even some little research. Best, you can get ECOWAS desk in some obscure corner at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs somewhere. So this is the case. These are some of the stock-taking things we're talking about. That if you don't take the people along, if you don't do the things that both for the creation of a community, because we are building one community, language gone, nationality gone, everything gone. We are just one community like Europe. But if these things are not part of the making of ECOWAS, then we are lost. So we are lost along the way.
So what you are saying is that we have a lot of work to do.
Very much. On the economic front, on the people's front, on infrastructure, several areas. That ECOWAS is like very, very several areas.
Let me even add a little bit.
Yeah, as we move on from
that topic. It's so sad and very, in my view, very absurd that politics, economics, socioeconomic, and then our call it African culture, You understand? Do we see that when it comes to the politics, democracy at a point? Now ask, and let's ask. ECOWAS have been there the whole 80s, from 75 leading to 77, especially from 77 coming down. The whole 1980s, 80 to 1990, ECOWAS member countries, how many of them was democratic government? Everybody, almost everywhere. It was military regime. You understand? Then at that time, did we suspend any of those ECOWAS member countries? Ghana was military, Nigeria was military, Niger was military, Burkina, Togo, everywhere was military. How many of them? They would have suspended the ECOWAS at that time. Did they? No. However, laws of ECOWAS made some of the countries were to suffer. One of them was Mauritania. When they stage a coup, you suspend them. When Guinea-Bissau stage a coup, you suspend them. But when Ghana, godfather, when Nigeria, god sister, when they stage a coup, they were rather leaders. And then how can you have an establishment of 75, 50 good years of 15 member countries, and you do have a president of a country which is a member being the president or the chair of the ECOWAS? You can't do it, you cannot. Because when it comes to politics and it comes to governance, who has to go out, it comes to elections, they themselves, they haven't had or had a good elections in their country. How do they speak on the subject of elections? He made mention of Europe. ECOWAS is older than the European Union. Post-Second World War, the Europe, what we are seeing, the EU, was designed by Winston Churchill of the UK. Where are they? He's out. It was formed on the basis of only 6 countries. It was France, it was Italy, Germany, and 3 Benelux, Holland, Belgium, and Luxembourg. It was a coal mining association. Leading to 1990, from 1990 when they brought Barroso, who is not an European, he wasn't the prime minister, he wasn't anything. Look at the speed and the kind of things they've done. Now you can move from Amsterdam all the way down to Malta, all the way down to Gibraltar, all the way down to Andorra. Do you see any frontier barrier and border? Answer is no. Do you see any huge giant flag that welcome? Yes. You only see the car numbers that you enter in a different zone. Look at Accra. Just 2 hours to Lomé. When you reach there, Aflao, even your spirit comes down. Every car must come down. Is that the movement? Is that the free movement? Now everybody understands that it is a culture of the whole ECOWAS belt that when you reach any border, drop down, pay money. If you don't pay your passport, they collect it in the French country. They put it down. So from Accra to Lagos, that can use 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. Most minimum, 6 hours to get to Lagos. Accra to Aflao, every car must come down. You enter Lomé. Lomé to Ilakoji. From Ilakoji to Semeboda. Semeboda to Badagry. Look at the citizen, the nationality. Talk about, they are the same. Ifan region of the Semeboda, they are Yorubas. Ilakoji and Togo, they are also, all of them, they are Awes. And when you come to Accra, they are all one people. For ECOWAS, the whole tribal setting is the same. The whole food is the same, the whole thing. So we should have the best integration more than what other blocks have done. However, is that what we see? The answer is capital no. So if ECOWAS really, like Okujeto Honorable said, if they really want to reinvest, realign, and recalibrate, I borrow the word of doctor, then that is not what they have to. They have to begin from breaking down the frontiers and barriers. The borders are too just even frightening. To begin with, how would we have illegal entries, illegal exits like the Ghana-Flow border, B1, B2, B9, all of them are illegal routes. Why would are we having that? We're having that, but somebody hasn't got 1 million franc or 100 Ghana cedis to pay to enter. So if we are to talk about ECOWAS, yes, it's the biggest bloc on the whole African continent,
right,
with more population more than any other of the 5 African continent blocks. So ECOWAS, yes, indeed, we are together, but in fact, in terms of everything, customs, revenue, there is nothing that binds us together.
Just a footnote.
All right.
Yes.
I'm wrapping up with you, so
yes.
we move to the next topic.
Yeah, the point is genuinely, West Africa or Africa generally, integration-wise, had run into problems. And not naturally, development in any field will run into some problems. the period between 75 and now, when we actually set out the
rules
parameters
for
for
ECOWAS.
going community, there were several problems. By 1979, African economies were all down, stagnation and decline. And with that stagnation and decline, we were all belted under the hypnosis of the IMF and the World Bank. Everybody goes structural adjustment. It was a fiat. And because of that, in the 80s, which we call the lost decade, you know, were periods when each and every country was more interested in their own affairs. And therefore, it stifled everything, integration. You know, structural adjustment made us more parochial, more inward looking. And integration was put at the back burner. In the 90s, we all went hippic. So these are some of the problems. But then our leaders should have known how to overcome these problems. And we exacerbated the problems by going individualistic instead of putting our loins together and act together and be able to go one way or the other in a community-wise thing. And one of the biggest bane was also that we found out by 1989 that integration without community security is a problem. Europe is lucky for having NATO guiding their integration. No country can afford to have instability. In our case, there were pockets of instability almost everywhere. And we had ECOWAS to stop the instability in some cases. But after that, after we disbanded ECOWAS, the pockets of instability that we are having with the threat of terrorism, is said that we don't have a community security anymore. And that was one of the basic reasons why ECOWAS is getting many more people leaving. Because the community-wise, we don't have a security. You know. So yes, let's agree that we have the problems, but our leaders were unable to identify the problems and tackle them the way they should tackle. Up to now, we don't have giant community projects like the West African Power Pool, West African Gas Pipeline Project,
Doc,
infrastructure.
may I have one key recommendation from both of you regarding or with respect to how ECOWAS can be functionable and deliver on its mandate? Because I know there will be a number of them, but just one key.
I have always said we should not pay lip service to integration. Integration has a logic. You sidestep the logic and you are gone. And we have not gone anywhere towards integration. First, the FTA, when you remove the barriers to trade and people start, you know, recognizing that we are trading among ourselves and that sort of thing. You know, remove all barriers to trade, FTA. From there, you get your common external tariff. Are we there? We don't have a common external tariff, and therefore, people entering West Africa will have to go through 15 different kind of barriers. You know, if it's an FDI or that kind of thing. And FDI is always looking for a community. A Coca-Cola wanting to come to West Africa wants West Africa, not Ghana.
Yes.
They want a bigger market of about 350 million people, not Ghana of 33 million people, you know, kind of. But we are not having this. Free movement of free movement of goods, services, and persons is very key. Are we looking at that? We are not looking at that. And finally, we need a currency to be able to galvanize all that I've said.
A common currency.
Common currency, yes. If we are not going through these steps, forget about integration. If we are being political and looking over our shoulder and saying what France would do, what France is telling us, what IMF is telling us, we'll get nowhere. And that's what we are doing. Something happens in one of the countries, instead of helping the country, France is telling you, send troops. And then we lie to the people, we make the people believe that we can't do it. When ECOWAS threatened that they were going to Niger within 1 week, I laughed. Because, I don't know, but maybe a new theory is coming. There is no way you can mobilize a multinational force, right? Multinational or multilateral force from different countries, even if it is 2 or 3 countries, in 1 week. It's no general will tell you that you can mobilize. Even one country cannot mobilize within 1 week. All right? The UN minimum takes 3 months. Maximum takes 9 months to mobilize for peacekeeping. And then within 1 week, ECOWAS, we don't have a standby force, and we say 1 week we are going to Niger. It was laughable.
We don't have one container or kiosk that houses ECOWAS weapons.
No, logistics, because if you are going to mobilize for you are talking about logistics
weapons
and strategic movement. You know, how are you going to do that?
All right, so that will be one key thing that must be looked at. Please, Farouk, what will be that one thing, recommendation, one key major recommendation?
Thing that they should not let ECOWAS member country president be the head of ECOWAS. Neutrality is what UN didn't take American, they've not taken British sitting prime minister to be the head of UN. Are you getting me? European Union, they've never taken any prime minister from any European country to be the head. So if you have that kind of neutrality, it doesn't matter. Certainly the citizen or whoever, a diplomat must come from one of the countries. But indeed, the president, sitting president, then they have an interest of their politics, the political dynamics, the political philosophy, ideologies are not the same. And that is the biggest issue that informs the decision of ECOWAS. Because if you bring Al-Hassan Ouattara, yes, by standards of whatever his performance, tip-top. But if you bring out democracy and the credentials, then we will say that, of course, when some 15 years ago, ECOWAS were saying they were telling Laurent Gbagbo, you cannot go for the third time. That was the mandate. That was the threshold and the standard. Now Alassane Ouattara came with assistance of everybody, democracy, a new prime minister. He's done already 15 years and still counting. Now post Alassane Ouattara, Cote d'Ivoire's issues is being incubated now.
Yes. There's a likelihood you go again.
No, there's a likelihood he's going again.
Yes.
Because all the people, he's changed constitution, switch hands to another political party, use that one to not do another 2 terms. By the time he finished the 2 terms, he have another third party and switch come to. Where is the ECOWAS? ECOWAS is silent. So what is the difference? That somebody picks a gun and overthrow constitution, but somebody uses a pen to overthrow constitution. On the day of the swearing in of Al-Hassan Ouattara, ECOWAS members are all there. And they don't complain. They see nothing wrong with it.
And when there is a, sorry to interrupt rudely.
Yes.
And when there is a coup somewhere, he's the one ECOWAS signs to go and talk to them.
Mediate.
Yes, mediate. He went to,
A good example.
A good example. He went to Dumbaya. He led the delegation to Dumbaya to go and convince him.
Okay, gentlemen.
No, it's okay. we don't.
I told you today's conversation is going to be a podcast format, so we'll really be talking about, these issues, and of course we'll be educating and informing our audience as well. So I'm just fortunate to have these two here. Let's see what else we can talk about. Now, we don't have much time. We have very interesting topics that I would have wished we could, run over all these topics. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time. I am hoping and praying that you would avail yourselves again
Anytime.
next week.
The program is not ECOWAS, which is
it's not. So we are done with ECOWAS now. Let's talk about something that has sparked a lot of outrage on the African continent. There was a gathering, by United States officials of the United States of America. There was a gathering. Let me just leave it so that you fill in, where you would want to. There was a gathering. The United States of America is one of the high-profile gatherings, and they were talking about a number of issues concerning the United States, its foreign policy, interest, and all of that. And then Burkina Faso featured in that conversation, where there was this information that was shared that the Burkinabe leader, the junta, as they call him or address him, is using the resources of Burkina Faso for his own interest, for his security.
So, in which the ruling elite of a country is receiving gratuities on the side that inure to the benefit of the strongman leader and not to the populace of the country. Does that sort of corruption and bribery go on with regard to the Belt and Road?
Absolutely, Chairman. I see this, and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Tory and Burkina Faso, as they know that both, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime. There's a number of examples across. Even in Sudan, what's going on with the rapid support forces and Burhan of the Sudan forces, when you get down to it, is all about the revenue that can be drawn out of that. And there are nefarious actors in the CCP or in sometimes Russia are complicit in those activities.
The question many have asked on the African continent, by sampling most of the information that they have on the internet, we've collected quite a number of, reactions, and we realized that Africa is not happy with this comment or statement that was made in the House concerning Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso, for some, have actually argued that it is a sovereign state and it must and it has the right to take care of its business without any interference by any country or whatsoever. So that has really kind of, gotten people to be very upset. Is this kind of comments and interest in another country's, how they run their affair, likely to go beyond mere statements in that particular gathering and perhaps influence or lead to coup attempt or invasion by people or whatever? It's one thing that I really want to be schooled on. So since you are here, I believe you can help us really understand how things like this actually play out in international relations.
Well, international relations generally is using all the tools in the tools box to achieve what you want to achieve. And propaganda, lies, intimidation, all kinds of tools are used to change things to come your way. So propaganda of late has been one of the biggest tools in international relations. There was a time I read when the Russian war with Ukraine started. And there were a series of things that were coming on the internet. Russia had lost 10,000, another 20,000, another 75,000. And Russia went there with 100,000 to start with. So within those days that we were talking about those numbers, if you put them together, then the 100,000 were lost already. So these things are usual, and it has effect. First, the gathering was trying to influence Burkina thinking. That's number one. To again denigrate or, lower the importance of the man and all that they say he's doing. Maybe they didn't add that a lot of the things that we hear the man was chalking, the successes, were Russian propaganda. I read something like that. The Russians are there and they want, so they are making the propaganda. The sort of things we see are not true. Some of them were even computer generated and that kind of thing. So propaganda is part of the normal thing. And Nkrumah, the same thing. Didn't we hear that Nkrumah had killed a pregnant woman? A live pregnant woman was buried before his effigy was put there so that he will be president forever. And that gained currency. See, the more you repeat them, the more currency it gains. The more it starts festering, trickling and, fermenting itself to generate something you want. So it is one of the biggest ploys of our enemies to make sure Africa does not move. Burkina Faso is doing so well. People know about it. There was a demonstration in the US and in Britain. Was it this very week? A pro-Burkina kind of demonstration. Why are they not hammering that? Why are they not showing that so well to show that the man is popular? In all these things, they want a coup to oust the guy. Just like they have ousted all. The classified CIA documents show how many of such persons they have ousted through coups or assassinations or whatever it is. If it's as a political party, they will foment trouble within the political party. And you see a whole lot of things. So for me, it's part of the propaganda. And propaganda is one of the tools in international politics anyway.
Propaganda is one of the tools in international relations. Now, Farouk, let me wrap up with you. Does this have the potential of causing any kind of disruption when it comes to the stability of Burkina Faso right now as we speak? Because then we are picking some information, unconfirmed information as well on the internet. Does this stand a chance to disrupt the peace that they have preserved so far in Burkina Faso?
Okay, let me just do it in this way. Burkina is a country, of course, that is noted for coup d'etats, undoubtedly. Yes. On the whole Africa, Burkina tops all when it comes to coup d'etats. From Maurice Yamigo's time, Lami Zana came to overthrow him. Ouedraogo came to, Zebo came to overthrow him. Ouedraogo overthrew him. Then Sankara would overthrow him. And after Sankara, Blaise Compaoré came 27 years. Compaoré came, and then Honore Traoré who also came. He overthrew him just one day. Yes. And after that, Zida came and overthrew him. Zida spent only 17 days. And then Zida gave to Kafendo for just another. Kafendo also came for only about 300 days. Then another was a Gilbert. He also came to overthrow him. He spent 6 days. After 6 days, then another Sheriff Say also overthrew him, also spent 6 days. Then Kafendo came again. Then they brought what is called Kabore. Kabore came to do 6 years. Then there's a Damiba. Santiago Damiba came to overthrow him. And then Damiba, whose son, or Tarawih was part. So if you look at all the 11 coup d'etats, it's something that they do. And then all had been orchestrated, of course, by their colonial masters, France. That's right. It is there. But this time around, the story is a different story. The basis of the boys' revolution was not just a business as usual to topple and just reinstate and become a head of state. Still, he has not made mention, as it has happened in the case of Gabon. We can't have time to talk about it.
We don't.
You just overthrow somebody, take off the military uniform, and then turn around and become a democratic, and it's accepted. No, that is still a revolution in disguise. So this guy is still in military regime, junta. He has not overthrown, ideally, the constitution in Burkina Faso. What people do not know, he didn't touch the constitution. If you are a parliamentarian, they can go to their parliament. But he has a business, and the business is a program outlined for the people of Burkina. The question the world should ask, are Burkinabés interested and happy with what he's doing? They are very, very, very welcoming it. Why? When Damiba overthrew Kabore, on the basis of what? They were killing them, all the region of Gao, and then Timbuktu. The rebels were 14, grouped out in Mali. The Ansawa, the Ansadine, Jamaria, those Tuaregs who came from Libya, they were there. ISIS, Daesh. And then a part of those boys were Mustafa Bonkano, you see, Boko Haram boys, all these groups have been there. They went to Burkina, causing the same mayhem. They are also in the what? In Niger, doing the same thing. And they had told, how do we call it, Kabore, let us go and fight them. When they were killing the villages, Kabore refused, leading to the coup of Santiago Damiba. Damiba came, and he was doing the same thing. That is how this boy came up. But interestingly, Assimi Goïta's coup didn't lose one person. They didn't kill anybody in Mali. Burkina Faso didn't kill anybody, not even a fowl.
Bloodless.
And then also Chiani also didn't kill anybody. Because Mosi to Mosi, they don't kill themselves. They only went to this Damiba and told him the basis of the coup was to make sure that we go and fight the rebels and the terrorists, insurgents, and Al-Qaeda, etc. from Abush. You didn't agree. So sign. So he wrote 2 sentence statements, and they lifted him to what? To Ayadema for him to go. This boy has started and doing his program. He's a military. He still sleeps in military uniform. So what is happening is that America or France, anything America is saying, if France should say it becomes a problem. So America is picking through. France is picking through America. But I'm saying that assassination is out. America cannot go into the airspace to bombard or to kill him over what? If the boy is enriching himself for security, is there any country that's secured, that is highly secured more than America? Is there any country that has security budget more than America? Is there any country that spends money more than America? And how long do they, how much do they protect? Even one American president sitting in the air, how many aircraft follow him? So it is not a question of the security is the issue. It's a question of what the doctor is saying, that the propaganda. But then let us not get it wrong. Some are also, quote unquote, while the French are doing their own thing, the boy is not stupid. They could also what? Also throwing out there. Because everybody knows Burkina lies at this. So if, then 10 coup attempts all have been fouled, then there's a kind of fear that no, then I wouldn't. Jerry Rawlings did the same thing. Created artificial to some extent. He had 21 coup d'etat attempts. How many of them? One at Dansuman, at China's coup, on a ceiling, where Dansuman Tigo is today. Is there a coup? If a castle or presidency is at the castle, you are in Dansuman staging a coup. How? Jewel School, which General Kwashiga, College
Foiled.
Kwashiga, foiled. Already, Jewel was even in Burkina. When they just went
so
to.
what you are saying is that this doesn't stand any chance
It
of causing
cannot.
any kind of disruption in the country,
This is
Burkina
not the
Faso.
point. No, it won't be, as I said.
But I have a slightly different opinion.
Yes.
You see, these things are not done for doing sake.
Certainly,
If
yes.
they have anybody they are preparing to take over from this guy, they can assassinate him.
They can, but
Okay.
They can easily assassinate him.
because it's happened.
They are doing it all over the ways. Yes,
Sankara.
Sankara.
But we've heard
Yes.
of attempted assassinations.
Exactly.
But
They have not succeeded yet. But I'm saying, if this guy were playing their game, or singing to the tune of their guitar, they wouldn't have touched. They would have praised him.
Right.
But that the Russians are there, that he's doing things and succeeding is annoying. It would mean that several other French-speaking countries will abandon France.
And begin to
yes.
So they will
emulate.
always try and undermine him. My prayer is that he should know this and be able to spend even more on his security and the security of the
And be
security.
able and spend more of the
Exactly.
resources on his
On his
security.
security, yes.
All right, interesting. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I would want us to just run over this important story that I have here briefly. You know, then we leave. The minister for we're talking about chip embedded passports, the rollout, which happened a couple of days ago. I was there with the team on the ground with the Foreign Affairs Minister. The introduction of the new biometric passport is aimed at enhancing passport security, eliminating the influence of middlemen, and improving transparency in the passport application process. Can I go ahead and say kudos to Ghana, finally, for getting to this stage? What do you have to say briefly as we wrap up with this one?
Well, quickly, security in all measures it's important.
Okay.
Passport security,
Right.
ID card security, SNIT security, insurance security, because people are always wanting to be fraudulent. So any amount of security measures that are taken to secure whatever the plan is for our well-being is something to be applauded.
Right.
And I believe but are we sure that we can secure that security? That's the thing. The passport we are having is a well-secured passport, but the middlemen are there, the Goro boys are still there. And
No, they are no more there.
Oh, they are.
No, they are no more there.
Please.
Doc, I can tell you for a fact that
okay.
the middlemen are no more there.
I see on the internet and on my WhatsApp pages,
Right.
people advertising, if you want a passport for so and so days,
Yes,
I can
but
get it
that
for
doesn't
that.
mean that they have access to the offices.
Whatever it is.
They
Yes,
have
whatever.
not. But I think we need to do, like you said, awareness is very
Exactly,
important, and
exactly.
education is very
Education,
important.
awareness,
However,
education,
exactly,
and the security of the security. You know, the point
Okay.
is this, that you go to Rwanda and the security is so great, you put your hand on this thing, the number of times you have entered the state where you slept, where the hotel, whatever it is, it's known to them. But we pay lip service with our security, honestly speaking. People will find a way of bypassing this. And that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, all right.
Exactly.
So, all right then. Please, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, I mean,
the chip embedded passport
well, I can
rollout.
say that there's an improvement on the document
Right.
of travel. Beyond that, access to acquire or secure a passport, to me, the process for a Ghanaian to get a passport is what I'm expecting to be enhanced and improved. Just not
Simplified
men.
more.
Because it is very difficult. You were saying that the Goro people are not,
No, they
because
are not,
you are not, no, their presence around the building is what you are talking about. But today, if somebody who lives at Sankwari wants to apply for Ghana passport, they cannot go to Kumasi. One will say, oh, when you go Kumasi, you can spend 6 months, 1 year to get a passport. So to me, it is not just only a matter of improving on the security of the document. How a Ghanaian,
Accessibility.
or how accessibility and how
has been improved.
non-Ghanaians, because look, if you're in China these days, a lot of people that Chinese have arrested for visa, overstay, etc. They are all what? They are all foreigners. How does it play out? These are some of the issues that, look, much as we're improving on the issue, the passport itself, can we improve on getting the right people or get everybody being able. And
Yes,
we are Ghanaians
yes, a
being
system
able
has
to-
been
a
created.
system, yes,
Exactly.
that-
So there has
that-
been improvements in almost all areas.
Yes.
Not just the chip embedded rollouts.
But
You
that
know,
should
yes.
be
But then
applauded,
again,
yes.
now
That's
passport
the-
is easily
They
accessible
should
to
be
every ordinary
should
Ghanaian.
decentralize-
With the amount even reduced, and it has been sent to Parliament for approval.
Approval.
Exactly.
It's
so
good.
that is
The
one of
more
the
you
key objectives or
objectives
the
of
things
the-
that
exactly.
this minister wants to achieve.
Which is very
yeah,
good.
So he is
But
very,
the more you
very
restrict a
much
thing,
into it.
the more it is easier for
people to find way
So
out.
it's a good thing, and that's I'm saying that let's find the security of that security.
Right, the security of that security. All right, gentlemen. Unfortunately, time will not permit me to run over all the stories that I have tabled, but I believe we were able to touch on the salient topics
Sure.
that we believe that you have appreciated our time on your screens, and of course your time as well. We appreciate you so much for making time to join us every now and then. My guests have been Farouk Al-Wahab, International Diplomatic Consultant. Thank you so much for joining us every
Arrivederci.
time we call on you. And also Dr. Vladimir Entry Danso, International Relations and Security Analyst. Thank you so much, Doc, for
very
your
welcome.
time. We
You're very
appreciate you
welcome.
so much.
Sure.
Right, my name is Harriet Nate. The show is Diplomatic Affairs.